Okay, so before you start today's work, you need to pause this and get your notes for solving equations and inequalities. If you do not have them, you should be able to find them on the Canvas module for Tuesday, January 5th. And you will need those, so write them down. It's only 6 steps. We're going to use those to solve every one of these. Now, with that being said, the first problem that we're doing together, the m minus 4 over 7, this one is one of the smaller problems that we will be doing today. I don't want you to get scared or freaked out when you see the bigger problems. Just remember that all of these inequalities are small problems put together, and if you follow the steps that we have in our notes, you will do just fine. So, let's start with the first one. M minus 4 divided by 7 is greater than negative 1. So I'm going to solve this just like I would an equation using my steps 1 through 5. The first step says clear any grouping symbols, which I don't have any. Grouping symbols are parentheses or brackets. Number 2 says combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign or inequality sign. We don't have any like terms on the same side. Now it says add or subtract to get all the variables on one side of the equal sign. Well, right now we only have variables on one side of the equality sign. Number 4 says add or subtract to get all the constants on the other side of the equal sign. A constant is a number without a variable, and we have those on both sides. So I'm going to, so I don't move everything around, I'm going to write further down. Let me change to this. So I'm going to rewrite my problem down here so I have more room. Is greater than, and this is divided by 7. So the first thing I want to do is to get the first thing I'm doing is getting all the constants on one side or on the other side of the equal sign. So we want to move them away from the m. So I'm going to multiply this side by 7 because we know the opposite of dividing by 7 is multiplication. And what I do to one side, I want to do to the other. That dot means multiply as well. So that crosses out and leaves me with 1. So that leaves me with m minus 4 is greater than negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Then we're going to say, what's the constant that we're trying to move? We want to get the m by itself, so I'm going to move the negative 4. The opposite of negative 4 is to add 4 or positive 4. And what I do to one side, I'm doing to the other. So that leaves me m is greater than negative 7 plus 4. Guys, don't get hung up on your integers. Use your calculator if you need to. Negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3. So we have solved m is greater than negative 3. This is what I would put in my answer box. I'm not actually on the site, so I'm going to write it in there. I'd put m, and then I would use the greater than sign right here. It is greater than negative 3. And hit submit. Okay, so the second problem looks bigger, but it's not any scarier if you just follow your rules, okay? And we got this. So I rewrote the problem already so that I have room to work it out. So if negative 1 parentheses r plus 1 close parentheses minus 8 is less than 5. So my first step says clear any grouping symbols. I have parentheses, so I need to get rid of those first. To do that, we distribute or multiply everything in the parentheses by what's in front of it. Negative 1 times r is negative 1r, or we could just put negative r. It means the same thing. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. And then I'm going to bring down my negative 8 is less than 5. Number 2 says combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. Well, we don't have an equal, we have an inequality, but we're going to say it combine any like terms that we have on the same side. So we have this negative 1 here. Remember, a like term means that they have the same variable to the same power. So we can't combine the negative 1r with anything because we don't have any other r's. But the negative 1 and the negative 8 are like terms because they are both without a variable. So I bring down my negative 1r. and then -1 minus 8. When I combine those, if I use a calculator, it's going to give me -9. And then I bring, or just copy down my is less than 5. Step 3 says add or subtract to get all the variables on one side. Well, we only have variables on one side, so we don't need to do that. Number 4 says add or subtract to get all the constants on the other side. So now we're going to try and get all the constants away from the R. The constants are numbers without a letter, numbers without a variable. So I have a -9 that's on the same side as the -1R. So the opposite of -9 is +9, or the opposite of negative is positive. And what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. And that leaves me, bring down my -1R. -9 plus 9 equals 0, so I don't have to bring that down. Bring down 5 plus 9 is 14. Now, the last thing I need to do, or I'm sorry, not the last thing. Number 5 says multiply or divide to isolate the variable. So I have to get that variable by itself, and even if the 1 wasn't there, I can't have a negative in front of that R. To get rid of it, I'm going to divide by -1. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. -1 divided by -1 leaves me a +1. So I can just write R, because +1R is 1R. I can just write the R. And then I guess I can go ahead and write this. 14 divided by -1 is -14. Now, one last thing that we use for inequalities only. Step 6 says, did you multiply or divide by a negative number? I did divide by a negative right there. So that means I have to change my sign. So I'm going to flip my sign around. I'm going to put R, change this so that it is greater than -14. And this is the answer I would put into my IXL. Okay, we're going to do one more together. We're using our steps just like we have been. Number 1 says clear any grouping symbols. So we have a grouping symbol over here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down my 10J because I don't have any grouping symbols on that side of the inequality. Let me fix that inequality sign. So 10J is less than, and we have this -5 right here with these parentheses. So I know I need to distribute the -5 to get rid of the grouping symbol. So -5 times -5J. I know -5 times -5 is a +25. So I have a 25J. -5 times 18. Don't be afraid to use your calculator. -5 times 18 is -90. All right. Next step, number 2, combine like terms on the same side of the sign. I don't have any like terms on the same side right now. Number 3, add or subtract to get all the variables on one side of the equal sign. Well, right now I have variables on both sides, so I want to get them on a different side. So I guess I'll subtract 25. I could move either one, but I think I'm going to move the 25J. So I'm going to subtract 25J from each side of the inequality. And that's going to leave me 10 minus 25 is a -15. So -15J. I'm going to go ahead and bring down my less than sign. 25 minus 25 is 0, so I don't have to bring anything down. -90. All right. Now, number 4 says add or subtract to get all the constants on the same side. Well, we don't have any constants. We only have the -90. There's not on both sides. Number 5, multiply or divide to isolate the variable. So I'm going to divide each side by -15. And remember, when we divide by a negative, we're going to have to flip that sign. So Negative 15 divided by negative 15 is 1. So that's going to leave me 1j. It's going to be positive. Bring down my less than. Negative 90 divided by negative 15. Well, I know that is a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. Negative 90 divided by, let me double check myself. 90 divided by 15 is 6. It is. Okay, so I have j is less than 6, but step 6 says if you multiply, divide, or multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. So this sign has to be flipped. So I can erase that and write it the other direction since I'm running a little low on room. All right, so I have j is greater than 6. If you get stumped or get confused, remember to look at what it tells you you did wrong on your after you submit your answer. It will tell you and give you steps. Also, refer to your notes, and you got this. Small steps for big problems. I'll try and do a couple more examples in a different video for you.